This recording will explain the grant writing assignment for the course. Each student team will be writing a grant proposal collaboratively with other members of the team, and every member of the team will receive the same final grade for the proposal. The first step in writing the grant proposal is to choose a topic, and we have supplied a list of suggested topics that you can find on the course website. After your team has chosen a topic, you should consult with the faculty mentor that is assigned to your team to approve the topic, and a list of the faculty mentors is included on the suggested topics for the grant proposal. The grant proposal for the course, like all grant proposals, has strict page limits, and it's very important that you adhere to these page limits. In fact, if you ever write a proposal and don't adhere to the page limits, let's say you go a half page over and send the proposal into a government agency, you'll find that the grant will be sent right back to you, being rejected without ever having been read. So it's very important to adhere to the page limits and any other instructions that go along with the proposal. The grant proposal that you'll be writing is based on the NRSA proposal that graduate students submit to the National Institutes of Health for an individual research fellowship. And it has the following page limits. The specific aims page has a page limit of 1 page. This is typically true of all specific aims. And in the grant that you'll be writing, you're only permitted to include a single specific aim. This differs from the NRSA proposal and other proposals where you typically have 2 or 3 or even 4 aims, but we are limiting you to only a specific aim. The significance and innovation section of the grant has a limit. You should try to write this section within 1 or 2 pages, and then the approach section, the longest section of the grant where you explain your experimental design, has a limit of 3 to 4 pages. After that, you will include your references, and the total page limit cannot exceed 6 pages. This includes the specific aims, significance and innovation, approach, and approach sections. The references don't count in this limit of 6 pages. And in writing the grant should be single-spaced and no smaller than a 12-point font. In the approach section, you are not permitted to use imaginary reagents or imaginary techniques. You have to rely on reagents and techniques that are known to science. The first page of your proposal will be your specific aim, and the specific aim page includes several paragraphs. The first paragraph will be an introductory paragraph that gives the scientific background of your proposed project as well as the overall scientific goals of your research program. The second paragraph will be the aim itself, and the first sentence of this paragraph should be a sentence that states the aim as an aim. So to give you an example, the first sentence of the aim paragraph could state, test the hypothesis that neurons generate action potentials, or the aim could be, study the characteristics of action potentials in neurons, or characterize the molecular processes that lead to the generation of action potentials. But the point is that the aim, the first sentence, should be stated as an actual aim. The aims paragraph should include the hypothesis that you're testing, if indeed you have one, the proposed experiments. There should be a short explanation of the experiments you'll be doing, the expected outcome, and somewhere in the specific aims page you should have a very brief description of the methods, the animal you'll be working on, the preparation and techniques you'll be working on. This can only be 1 or 2 sentences long. And I want to emphasize that the specific aims page that you write is extremely important, and indeed is the basis upon which the entire proposal is structured. So it's critically important to write a very good specific aims page before you begin writing the rest of the proposal. When you write the background section in significance, this section should lead to answering the specific aim that you have proposed. The experimental design section of the grant will be based once again on the specific aim and the question that you're asking. So before you proceed to write the rest of the grant, you have to be sure that you have a very good specific aims page constructed and written out. This slide gives an example of a specific aims page. It comes from a grant that I wrote a number of years ago, and it serves to illustrate the structure of how the specific aims should be written out. Following the specific aims page are the significance and innovation sections of the grant proposal. The significance section gives the scientific background of your proposed question. You begin by describing what has been done previously, what is known about the problem, and then this is followed, and this is very important, by describing what remains to be discovered about the research question that you're asking. It's very important to emphasize what is not known and how the experiments that you're proposing will answer these unknown questions. You should also describe the rationale for the experiments you are proposing to do. At the end of the section, you should make an argument for why your research is high impact, why it's important to do, and this could include a description of why the scientific issues you are investigating are important or of scientific interest, or the impact could be due to the fact that this is important translational research that might eventually lead to cures for diseases, or perhaps your research has direct implications for clinical research, perhaps leading directly to new therapies for treating a disease. But you should emphasize why the research is high impact. The next section is the innovation section. This typically is a much shorter section than the significance section, and in this section you should make an argument for why your proposed research is innovative. This could be because you are proposing innovative scientific hypotheses, or it could be because you are proposing to use innovative experimental approaches, new techniques that you have developed. The last section of your research proposal is the research or experimental design section. This typically is the longest section of the proposal, and it should include the following parts. If you have preliminary results, these are included at the beginning of the research design section of the proposal. Now clearly you're not going to be doing experiments before you write up your proposal, so you won't have any preliminary results that you have produced yourself. However, you are permitted to use published results from other people as your preliminary results. You can do that for this proposal, but you certainly should not do this for a real proposal that you are submitting for real funding. Now the purpose of the preliminary results is to demonstrate that the experiments are feasible, and depending on the type of grant that you would write for real funding, sometimes preliminary results are absolutely required, other times they're not required. After the preliminary results are presented, you should give a short rationale for the experiments that you're proposing. You can have a separate rationale for each set of experiments that you propose if you wish. The next and probably longest part of the experimental design section is an actual description of the experiments that you're proposing. This is the experimental strategy part of the experimental design. And in this section you describe in a fair amount of detail the experiments that you will be conducting if your research is funded. The next section, and this is a very important section, you should describe the expected outcomes of your proposed experiments. And this includes both positive and negative outcomes of the experiments. You can't just assume your experiments are going to work the way you want them to and describe the positive results. You also have to describe what will happen if you get unexpected or negative outcomes from your experiments. The next section is equally important. You have to describe how you will interpret the results, both positive and negative, what these outcomes tell us about the hypothesis that you're testing or the question that you're testing. And then the last section of the experimental design section is a section where you describe possible pitfalls in your proposed experiments and ways that you can address them. So let me give you an example of a possible pitfall from my own research. We do research on regulation of blood flow in the retina, and in order to do this we visualize blood vessels on the surface of the retina, and to do this we have to illuminate the retina with light. But it could be argued that the light that we use to visualize the vessels will also stimulate the photoreceptors in the retina, thus changing the physiological state of the retina and producing unexpected results. So we would point out this possible pitfall that we need to illuminate the retina to make our measurements, but then we would argue that the light that we use to visualize the retinal vessels is very dim and in fact is not bright enough to stimulate the photoreceptors, so this indeed is not a problem. So that's the type of pitfall and explanation that you should give in the experimental design section. The final part of the experimental design is the methods that you're using. Typically these are relatively brief. It's good to refer to previously published work that explains the methods so that you keep the length of the methods section fairly short. You can place this at the end of the experimental design section or at the beginning. The choice is up to you. Let me remind you that there are several deadlines associated with the grant proposal that you'll be writing for the course. The first deadline is choosing a topic, and as I've already mentioned, you should confer with your faculty mentor in choosing a topic and have him or her approve the topic. The next strict deadline is handing in a first draft of the grant proposal, but you'll find that before you do this you'll want to consult with your faculty mentor probably several times to discuss the progress that you're making in writing the proposal. You undoubtedly will have many questions that will come up in the writing of the draft. After the first draft of the proposal is handed in, your faculty mentor will read it, and then you will meet with him or her to discuss revisions to the proposal. And finally, there is a deadline for handing in the second and final draft of the proposal. This deadline is several weeks before the end of the course, and please note that only one revision of the proposal is allowed. In order to assist you in working with your team members in writing the proposal, we have included on the course website an online discussion forum for each team. So each team can communicate with other team members through this forum, and this may help you in organizing the proposal and helping to complete the drafts of the proposal.